5 o'clock hours here. We're going to talk to Stormy Bonatoni in just a little bit. VGK ringside reporter. Much to get to. We got swirling rumors around baseball. Could a team be on the move? We got more about the Raiders and the schedule coming out tomorrow. Rumors about Raiders in week number 1. And, of course, our big-time winning Major League franchise in Vegas, the Vegas Golden Knights last night, having a really rough one. Let's get to it.
Battle-Born Injury Lawyers presents the Big 5 at 5. Number 5.
We'll do it live. We'll do it live.
We're live up on video on Facebook and Twitter and Twitch, so go check it out. Also YouTube. All right, Adam Hill, what the hell happened last night? Knights were shorthanded. You got to explain that situation. It's one of the biggest games of the year. I don't understand how they're shorthanded. All injuries?
A couple injuries. A little bit of a salary cap situation as well. They've had to manage guys all year long, and it just kind of came back to bite them. There was a combination of injuries that happened late in the season where you can't utilize LTIR anymore, with the fact that they just couldn't bring guys up and down, and they left themselves a spot where they just needed to be perfect. They needed to have no injuries and have everybody be able to play, and that just wasn't going to happen. And so they come to a place now where they come into the biggest game of the season. They can't call anybody up. They can't have any roster flexibility at all. And they didn't have enough guys available to field a full lineup. So from time to time, they've done it with one skater short. Yesterday, they had to go 3 skaters short for the biggest game of the season.
So this could be a case where the coach is mad at management for setting them up on this night without a full roster. So you guys in the media go in. I don't know that this was the ultimate goal, but you're asking again, DeBoer, hey, the roster, you ran out of gas. What's going on here? Trying to get him to say something, and he had enough of it, and he left.
Yeah, and we should point out, it never happens. We never hear from McPhee or McCrimmon, the brain trust of the organization, really during the season, barely at all, unless a trading deadline, those sorts of things. Yesterday, McCrimmon was available right before the game. We got the email right before the game started. It was like, hey, Kelly McCrimmon available by Zoom conference for reporters, and essentially he had explained the situation of where they were with the roster, why it was the way that it was, why they couldn't have guys coming up. And, he tried to explain it, but there's really no explanation beyond, you kind of flirted with a dangerous game all year, and this is you kind of paying the price just because of when some of the injuries happened and why it was unfortunate to happen at this point of the season. You would have wanted, hey, maybe if you clinch the game before, doesn't really matter. You just trot some guys out there. But the Knights were in a situation where they were shorthanded, and McCrimmon had to speak about that and talk about that and explain it. And my belief, again, this is just my thought, just based on the entire situation, because I was on the conference, and I will tell you that the questions were not negative. It was a message to management, not to the media. I don't think he was actually talking to the media yesterday.
Based on the result, I guess, do we question Fleury not being out there? Was Leonard fine?
It was fine.
Okay. Well, there were a lot of people before the game who were like, hey, Fleury should be the guy. And he stuck with the rotation, which I think suggests in the playoffs, the rotation is going to be where it's at.
Should also suggest that Leonard's playing game 1. I mean, that would be what you would take out of yesterday. Now, I don't know that that's going to happen. I don't know if they're going to stick with that or go that way. But that's what it would tell you, unless they plan on starting somebody else in the final game here against San Jose. Although it's a game you have to win in case Colorado loses one. So I would imagine you go Fleury and then Leonard game 1 of the playoffs.
Avs have control, right?
Yeah. If they win both their games, they win the division.
Both games against?
The Kings.
So Vegas Golden Knights fans have to root for?
The Kings.
The Kings.
And I hope they know that.
And in this case, who do you root for? The Kings.
The Kings.
Yes. Put all rivalries aside.
Then there's not even really a rivalry. But there's a city rivalry, and everybody wanted to be the rivalry at the beginning, and there's the whole name rivalry because the Kings trump Knights, apparently. I mean, all of those things are still a factor, but they're not. This is not a rivalry. This is not a team you look at. I think the Sharks are still the rivalry, and if Colorado is this good for the next 5-6 years and Vegas maintains their play, they will definitely be a rival at that point.
Number 4.
Boy, I feel like most ex-NFL players are rivals with Tim Tebow. Man, there's a lot of guys who are pissed off that Tebow's been signed by the Jaguars, that he'll get a chance to play tight end for Urban Meyer. Keyshawn Johnson was going crazy this morning on the Key and Jay Will show, our super early morning show. He was really laying into Tebow, and Jay Williams was having none of it.
Go sit down somewhere.
Nah, man, I ain't doing that.
Go sit down.
I'm not doing that.
Go sit down. Go sit down, Jay.
If you want to hire me, that's on you. It's not on me.
You taking a spot away from somebody to actually play. Okay. Why don't Quinn Snyder call you, your old assistant coach from Duke? You go play for Utah right now.
Well, I've been out for 20 years.
You still been out, Jay.
What side are you on in that part of the discussion where Keyshawn's like, you should call Quinn Snyder should call you up. Why don't you go back? It's a little different, isn't it? Jay Williams is 40 years old. He retired early in his career because of injuries. Tim Tebow is 33 years old, played in the NFL, is still in supreme shape, has been a pro athlete mostly since he left the NFL. Seriously?
I mean, it's a little more likely and logical than, trotting him out after 20 years. It is a little bit different. But the concept is the same. The guy's never played the position, is 33 years old, hasn't played at all any position in 8 years. There's a ton of question marks about whether he can do it. And I think it's beyond that. Like you mentioned players that are upset, former players. There's also current players who are tweeting about it saying it's ridiculous and unfair.
Did you see Devin Bush tweet about it?
I didn't see Devin Bush.
Devin Bush tweeted about it. A couple of laughing, crying emojis. He goes, Tebow got a job before Kaepernick. Wait till we play Jacksonville, and then a bunch of sleeping signs. Then Bleacher Report and other media outlets jumped on this like, oh, okay, you got a NFL player saying he's going to freaking knock out Tim Tebow. And then Devin Bush is like, oh, here comes the board media. Like, you put it out.
Right. I love that. I love when somebody creates
taking me out of context with the board media. They got nothing else to write about. It's kind of big. People are into Tim Tebow stories.
Somebody intentionally creates a story, and then they're like, this is all you guys have to do today, and you have nothing better to do. You created it. You did this. You want it. But it also goes to, this situation in Jacksonville, which I think is tone deaf to a lot of players' wants and needs and what they expect. But if you believe he can help you win, he can help you win, and that's fine. I just feel like they continue to make missteps. Like, you had the, bringing in the Iowa coach, and you had just mismanaging a lot of, what you're doing already, even though, Trevor Lawrence fell into your lap. It hasn't been a great situation for them. They're not doing an unbelievable job. They took some players in the draft where you look at it and say, was that just a favorite to Ohio State? Kids that are Ohio State, like, what? That doesn't make any sense. So there's some of those picks in the draft as well. Urban Meyer doesn't seem to know what he's doing necessarily as a pro football coach at this point.
It would really be more like if Quinn Snyder called them up and brought him in and said, we need a big man. It's essentially what this is.
No, it's not. No.
We need a tight end.
Tim Tebow's built like a tight end. Jay Williams is 6'2". He wouldn't call him up, ask him to play big in the NBA. Who is this Hahn guy hosting now? What is going on here? Finish this up.
I'm with Jay, though. Key, I'm with Jay.
You can be with Jay.
Man. You can't take in money.
I'm going to explain why I'm with Jay, though.
21-year-olds.
You play as long as you can until somebody says you can't.
Yes.
You want to play.
He can't play.
Oh, no.
We don't know that. Part of me thinks that Keyshawn, there's a little bit of jealousy here because you remember the way Keyshawn's career ended, right? Part injury, but he also kind of wore out his welcome. He had no allies left in the league. He finished up. He had a couple of years with Dallas. He was still catching 70 balls. John Gruden a few years before it got to like week 12, and he's like, "You're fired. Yeah, get out of here.
Right.
You're just not. It's counterproductive. You're a giant pain in the ass."
Yeah, and I'm sure he wanted somebody to call him up 5-6 years later and say, "Come back. Hey, you know what? You were good once. Come on back."
That's the great part, is that if someone would call up Keyshawn Johnson and he was healthy, and at 36, because he was out of the NFL at 34, at 36 and said, "Hey, come back," he would have taken the chance. He would have taken the opportunity to come back.
And I'm sure what he'll say is, well, I was a better player than Tebow, and I actually played that position, and that's fine. I mean, I agree with you. I think he
no, but the last point that Hahn was making, and by the way, I think he's going to be the new host because Zuma Mahenti has some health issues, so I think they're going to reshuffle that morning show. They do a good job, and you heard that's a good argument. Keyshawn's doing his job by taking a position. I actually like what Hahn said there. You play until there's no offers, and if someone wants to give you a job, you take it.
Yeah, I think that's true. Like I said, I don't have a problem with any of this stuff. Like if Urban Meyer is like, hey, this is how I win football games. I know who I build around. I know the guys that do it for me. I know what kind of team I need to build to have success at this level because he's never coached at this level before. All the power to him. Go do what you have to do. Go bring in the guys you think you have to bring in to go win football games. But if he's doing this because he's like, well, Tebow wants to be in the spotlight. Tebow wants a paycheck real quick. Let me just bring him in and do that for him. And I know he's not going to help me necessarily, but it'll be good for him at the expense of somebody else who could potentially have the job, who could be earning a paycheck and could help you eventually win. Like, I would have a problem with that, but I don't know what he thinks of Tebow. We'll find out.
Number 3.
Devontae Adams did a podcast with Peter King and said, you know what, if Aaron Rodgers is gone in Green Bay, I got to think about things. Said it would change a lot. Doesn't mean potentially I'd be gone, but I have to definitely do some extra thinking if my guy wasn't here. I don't blame him.
Yeah.
Last year, 115 catches, 1,374 yards, 18 touchdowns. He's in the final year of a $58 million deal. Boy, what a bummer that would be for him. In his walk year, he might have to play with freaking Jordan Love, and then all of a sudden, his numbers could go way down as he's on the verge of getting another big deal.
Yeah, I mean, these are the kind of things that are impacted. When we talk about, and Aaron Rodgers might leave. Yeah, that impacts Aaron Rodgers and his old team and his new team, but it also peripherally affects all these other people that are in the orbit. And, your success as a receiver is dependent largely on your quarterback. What is he going to get out of his quarterback? He doesn't know.
Adams is 15th on the wide receiver pay scale. So I wonder if there's a little part of him that's like, kind of annoyed with these guys to begin with.
I have maybe one massive check left. Am I gonna take that with the Packers and try to help be a part of this rebuild and maybe make sure Jordan Love is something? Or do I go make it somewhere else where I know that a quarterback is locked in for a few years that's going to be the guy that I can learn to work with?
If you're a Raiders fan and it just costs you money, would you rather have Devontae Adams over Aaron Rodgers where you have to give up a bunch of picks?
I mean, I kind of feel like Adams goes wherever Rodgers is, but if those are the choices, I mean, well, if you're sticking with Carr, I think you go Adams. Like their high school.
Well, I'm asking you, and you're not a Raiders fan, but would Raiders fans rather just pay for Devontae Adams outright with free agent money, or have to trade a bunch of draft capital and maybe some players to get Aaron Rodgers? The positions are much different in terms of importance.
Yeah, they certainly are, and that's why you'd have to give up more with him. I don't know. I mean, the one thing that's holding me back in like a situation like this is, well, you'd have Adams much longer than you would have Rodgers. So, I mean, that might play into it of, hey, we can have him for 7 years, or we're going to Rodgers for 3 or 4. Maybe that makes a difference.
Number 2.
We're seeing positive COVID tests all over Major League Baseball. Yeah. What the hell is going on?
Fernando Tatis Jr.,
one of the best players in baseball, has tested positive with the Padres. Now you got other guys in COVID protocol, and who? Profar and Mateo, who was a Las Vegas AAA player.
Yeah.
The Yankees have multiple dudes, coaching staff, who have tested positive. I don't know, man. I'm tired of sitting here. I don't want to lecture people. You do what you want. But if you're taking things seriously, get the vaccine.
Well, it's not 100% effective. We don't know if Tatis did. I haven't seen anything.
Maybe we'll get information that he's been vaccinated and he slipped through the net.
No, I would say, if once they get it, it's easier to say that they didn't than did.
Right.
And players, I believe in almost every jurisdiction where there's a major league team, players are eligible at this point to become vaccinated. I don't know why we don't. I think it would help a lot of areas of our economy and a lot of areas of recovering to have athletes just say, hey, we're all vaccinated. We're all fully vaccinated. We can be around each other. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about, everybody being so far away from us all the time. I mean, it was weird. I was at a live press conference today. We were remarking, what's the first one we've been at in, forever. But then it breaks into one-on-ones, and like we're sitting there talking to Davis, but then, Ace's team officials have to be, 10 feet from us or whatever, and we're kind of yelling questions to them because they're in protocol. So, you see that it's still a thing. It's still definitely impacting different organizations, different teams. The PR person actually wasn't even there for the Aces because he's in protocols and couldn't really be around there, is what I was told. So, I mean, you do still have to follow these things. You still have to be aware. You still have to, take part. But the vaccines are helping. And as we move along, we should see less and less and less of this, I would hope, as people continue to get it. But you're also not going to get to everybody, and it's not 100% anyway.
Number 1.
Well, here we go. Is this real? Reports today, Major League Baseball puts out a statement. Jeff Passan says, Passan with ESPN, Oakland A's will start exploring relocation possibilities after Major League Baseball suggested the organization consider moving to other cities if the Howard Terminal Stadium proposal is not approved by local politicians. Is this the final piece of pressure they're putting on, or do you think it's a lost cause and it's time to start looking at other cities?
I think it's definitely the final pressure they're putting on. I think, there's been talk and discussion and rumors for years about the A's moving and leaving Oakland.
Right.
And needing a new stadium deal to get something done to make them stay in the area. And would they go to San Jose? Then they're blocked by the Giants. Or would they go here or there within the Bay Area? All this has been going on for so long. Sometimes you have to set firm deadlines or at least open options for things to happen. And to me, that's what they did. Hey, if you want to get something done, City of Oakland or Alameda County or whatever jurisdiction you're dealing with, if you want to get something done, you better do it, because Major League Baseball has already said we can explore a move, we can talk about a move, we can potentially move. So if you don't do something, we're going to find some place that does. And so, I feel like just making that announcement, just opening it up and just saying, hey, the Major League Baseball and the A's have that opportunity to meet, make a decision, and move somewhere could trigger something to happen in the Bay Area, for sure. But there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of movement. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of panic that the A's are being serious. So maybe they're just back to square one and they don't go anywhere with it.
What are your feelings on this? Because I was never comfortable stealing a team as a Las Vegan from another city.
Yeah, once you do it once, it's so much easier.
Now there's no guilt.
Just take them all.
So I hate that someone is going to be potentially stealing from the city of Oakland. That sucks. This grosses me out. Alex Coffey, who covers the A's, per the A's, ownership has spent $230 million on trying to build a new ballpark in Oakland over the last 4 years. Quote, more than any other baseball owner in MLB history. What did you spend $230 million on? Wouldn't that be like 30 or 40% of a friggin' stadium? Why didn't you just spend it on the stadium?
Build the stadium.
What are you talking? Like, is it the payroll? We fielded a competitive team. We spent $65 million extra over the original plan. That 4 times 65 is not 230, but you get my point. It's just kind of fibbing. You spent $230 million trying to get a stadium. Huh?
Yeah, I don't believe that. I mean, is it possible? Sure, I suppose. I don't know how. I don't know where that came. Like, we built our stadium, AAA stadium, for less.
Yes.
Why couldn't you just build a stadium a little bit bigger than that for a lot less money, and you don't have to lobby and beg and plead everybody?
Around the market, the competition has begun for where a stadium should go here. If there was a Major League Baseball stadium, which you just mentioned, the other elephant in the room is we just built a stadium in Summerlin for the AAA team. Mike Gormala chimed in. He said, take my taxes and build the stadium in Deep Henderson.
Water Street? If you put one within a walking distance of a certain Mexican restaurant, I think you got a winning piece of gold.
Where would it go in Henderson? Would you put it out near the Raiders facility? Would you? I actually think it would be funny because I don't live there, but somewhere in the area of St. Rose and Eastern, I think that would be awesome.
Traffic wise,
good luck. We talked last week. I had to go up to Anthem and drove down the hill. I was like, oh my God, this is craziness. What is going on here?
There's that huge park area. Knock that out. Nobody needs parks.
Right? You're you're an anti-parker.
Bike trails and
you're an anti-bike trailer.
What are we doing?
You're an anti-biker.
I mean, I think.
Or do you go over in Henderson, Water Street? Do you go down near the Galleria Mall? There was talk of a minor league stadium going over there.
What about
so many possibilities?
What about like as you cross Water Street, or if you take Water Street and you cross Lake Mead? Because on the left side, there would be like those huge shopping plazas, but on the right side, there's nothing, I think. Maybe like an old factory.
And yet, if you're a baseball team and you're moving to the Las Vegas area, would you not want to be near the Strip?
Of course.
Yes. So I'm not sure what Henderson was, I think, being used as a pawn in the Diamondbacks nonsense.
Of course.
So
why don't we get the Diamondbacks back too?
So Henderson versus the Strip area versus Cashman. This should be quite the battle.
I would enjoy Cashman. Well, the Rio has long been a mentioned property.
Yes.
As potentially a baseball site, and they're not open.
And then, of course, there are other cities like Montreal, like Charlotte, like Louisville, like Portland, like Nashville, like Austin. I will throw 2 others in there.
You know what the best of those is?
What?
Vegas.
I would throw 2 others in there. The Inland Empire sort of area in Southern California, the population's so big and it's such a big market. And I'll give you the other one. This would be, I guess, a hometown or a home region bias. Actually, Central New Jersey would support. It actually would. It's like market. It's a slightly smaller market than Vegas now, and there's a lot of money there.
You're going to just have Phillies, Yankees, kind of Mets, and the shore stores,
possibly.
I mean, that's definitely seems to be a homer pick. I haven't seen them mentioned.
A third team in the New Jersey, New York area.
In New Jersey is where New Yorkers put their garbage.
True.
Okay, we get it.
It's the name of the team.
We get it. The bite that never dies. Built onto you, Catholic League. Thank you so much, sir.
What about a third team in LA?
Well, that was kind of what I was suggesting. I think, well, whatever. Inland Empire, whatever. Go Ontario, that area. I know they're a little bit different.
We talked about the Clippers moving to Palmdale.
I don't like Palmdale as an option. I don't like Palmdale as an option.
What about Mexico City?
Possible, right? It's been mentioned in the past.
They'd be number 1 on my list.